Okay, Dr. Ranganathan.
Yes, good evening, Rahul, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. I've been waiting very patiently for my turn, so I request the courtesy of a couple of minutes. First of all, Rahul, I'll be very careful if I were you to mute the Shiv Sena spokesperson, unless you want to have a haircut and it's been a month since you had one. But, you know, this is the moment in the political steeplechase when hypocrisy looks over her shoulder and sees duplicity fast catching up. By the way, that was a terrific initial expose of the Congress and Tehseen. On another lighter note, you seem to be saying you're not waiting for Friday, मतलब Monday को ही काम तमाम कर दिया. You seem to be saying कि गोली नहीं मारूंगा Tehseen को, and finish the sentence. But briefly, three issues here: sedition, Sena, and secularism. And let me delve into them briefly one by one. On the matter of sedition, Rahul, it is crazy, absolutely crazy that this charge has been slapped on the legislator couple. It sickens me that governments of all political parties use the draconian sedition law in instances that are clearly not seditious. I said use and not misuse because the law itself is draconian, overarching, and deliberately kept grey so that acts you would logically consider non-seditious can also be included. You can only misuse a just and conscientious law, not a draconian one that you can only use. Now let me quote from the Maharashtra government affidavit before the court. Quote, the couple have been charged with sedition for the hate and dislike they invoked against the chief minister and Maharashtra government, unquote. Really? But it sickens me when BJP in Gujarat uses it to arrest a journalist who criticized the CM's handling of COVID. It sickens me when Congress in Chhattisgarh uses it to arrest a man who complained of power cut. It sickens me when 10,000 people are charged with sedition under the NDA. 10,000 people are charged with sedition under the UPA, including 8,000 people in a single day. But you know what sickens me most, Rahul? These gangrenous selectivists who claim they speak truth to power, but power to them is always Modi, even when such draconian acts happen in non-BJP ruled states. Number two, Sena. Now, I mean, Sena talking about law and order is like Congress talking about honesty and scam-free governance. From blackening faces of authors to giving haircuts to opponents, to arresting dozens their views, to asking for a ban on transmission of TV channels, to bulldozing buildings of those they have disagreements with, to gloating that, quote, if Lok Shahi doesn't work, we have to opt for Thok Shahi. This is a state gone rogue, Rahul. Left thinking, what is more vague, the action of the state or the laws it is using to act on you? Finally, Rahul, very briefly, secularism. Sadly, secularism for us is when there is no deity except Allah and no one has the right to be worshipped but Him. Amplified through a loudspeaker 5 times a day all year round is creating enmity. But peacefully chanting Hanuman chalisa while not denigrating anyone's religion or God is creating enmity. Secularism is when reciting polities are the worst of creatures near a temple is not provocative, but reciting Bhajaman Ramcharan Sukhdai one day in a year near a mosque is. Secularism is controlling and taxing only temples but not mosques. Secularism is respecting the Supreme Court Sabrimala judgment but overturning the Supreme Court Shah Banu judgment. For how long will we pretend that we are not practicing secularism but rather appeasement? Rahul, just 5 seconds. As I keep saying, we were a banana republic from the day we became a republic.
Dr. Ranganathan, you're a free speech advocate. Tell me, what is problematic with what Tapase is saying?
No, but as I said to begin with, the erudite NCP spokesperson, Rahul, I gave you a few instances of what quote-unquote secularism in our country means. That you can find, you don't find polytheists are the worst of creatures provocative, but Jai Shri Ram provocative. You can chant in Azan that there is no deity except Allah, but you can't chant Hanuman chalisa. Incidentally, NCP and this gentleman, they practice secularism max pro. They are unreachable. They invented a 13th bomb blast so that Muslims don't feel that all the bomb blasts were being carried by Muslims alone in a Muslim locality. These guys are, legends.
We cannot give the party to an outsider. We cannot give the party to an outsider, which means it is a private limited company of the Gandhis. If PK is an outsider, a non-Gandhi is also an outsider. Dr. Anand Ranganathan?
Yeah, good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. I've been listening very patiently to all their erudite comments, so can I please request the courtesy of a couple of minutes? Look, Navika, Kishor, Prashant Kishor is responsible for 600 slides while Rahul Gandhi is responsible for just one, the Congress slide. Honestly, kya chuna lagaya hai? A Pfizing Nigerian widow who wants to give away her recently got inheritance is more trustworthy than Prashant Kishor. That said, I always respect a man, Navika, who turns what is hobby for others into his profession. You can fool some of the politicians all the time, but Kishor has managed to fool all of the politicians all of the time and cutting across party lines. For this feat alone, he deserves my adulation. But to be serious, Navika, just a minute. Let me give away some advice to Rahul Gandhi for free and promise badam halwa bhi nahi charge karunga main unse. Navika, the Congress must stop banking on anti-incumbency against BJP in order to come to power. It must care for what is and not for what it desires. It has two states and they are big states, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan. And these states have a very low base on most health and wealth indicators. Just the conditions to work to improve them. Make these two states a model for what you want India to be. Implement your Nyaya Universal Basic Income Scheme there. Improve the doctor-patient ratio there. The police-citizen ratio. You have 2 years to work your magic. You can do so much. Tap water, link rivers, health insurance, agriculture reforms you promised in your manifesto. Let people see what you can do. Convince them that you can improve things dramatically instead of paying the Kishors of this world millions to make slides and strategies for something that is not in your control. Work on the dust bowls of Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, not from the manicured lawns of 10 Janpath.
Well,
Why are you against marketing consultants, Anand?
Navika,
We have never
Navika, incidentally, Navika, before they approached Prashant Kishor, they approached Suhail Seth as well. But Suhail insisted on a joint venture and Rahul Gandhi misunderstood. He said, no, I smoke alone.
No. I won't lie about it. Never.
Well,
However, I was the one who worked on
let-
Sheila Dixit's campaign, but that was a different Congress and she was a different leader.
Ashutosh Mishra, I want to ask you, Ashutosh Mishra.
I want to say something. Ashutosh ji, 5 second ले लूं. आज बैसाखी है इसलिए.
बैसाखी कहाँ से आज?
ऐसे ही कह रहा था. Navika, no, I wanted to make one very important point. You know, I love my good friend Sanjay Jha. You know, now let me give an analogy. A T20 match is going on and suddenly there is a contentious, it goes to the third umpire. Will you wait for 3 years for the third umpire to make a decision? Dange ho jayenge. Yahan pe Sanjay Jha, my good friend, has been suspended for 3 years. A Congress party can't make a decision one way or the other to reinstate him or chuck him out.
Anand, I'm with the Guinness Book
He
of World
can't even
Records
join
as
the
a result of
BJP.
this.
Make a decision so that he can make his decisions.
Anand Ranganathan, we come back to the moot point. PK walking out, is it not reflective of the fact that the Congress party is refusing to reform, refusing to change, and in this kind of a condition, with a paralysis that has struck and with several leaders, having a mutiny if they are still in the Congress, because many have left, Jiten Prasada, also Jyotiraditya Scindia, Sushmita Dev, God knows how many have left and gone. What is the Congress demonstrating? Is it just the stage before rigor mortis?
Navika, first of all, if Prashant Kishor is hearing this, it's been 9:50 and I've got just 1 minute. I want to hire him so that somehow that my representation on your show increases. Just because you claim I'm half Punjabi, you don't give me any time at all. But coming back to this, Navika, Congress is a religion and it has gods and goddesses. And you know,
Punjabi, I don't get time.
and you know how difficult it is to reform religion. So this is not something that's going to happen in a day, but let me give you a stark example of how things can change, and they must change. And this is a very stark, I hope 2 of my very good friends out here on the panel wouldn't mind my taking this example. Navika, I've always believed that you mock and ridicule every ism except criticism. Now on your panel, you have Mr. Sanjay Jha and you have Mr. Chaudhary. Do you remember when the farm laws were enacted? And it was found out that in the Congress manifesto, all 3 farm laws were there. Mr. Chaudhary supported Rahul Gandhi saying that these are black laws. Whereas Mr. Sanjay Jha, also a congressman, supported Narendra Modi and said these are good laws. This is the thing. You don't have to find Prashant Kishor. That is the point I'm making. The reforms can be happening right this moment because it's in front of you. Just speak the truth.
In Hubbali, what you didn't know, and that has been revealed tonight, is that the AIAIMIM of Asaduddin Owaisi, his group of netas, called this entire gathering to orchestrated this. Are you surprised?
Rahul, I'm not surprised, but first of all, I hate to say this, but the fact is that the man who, from whose phone the WhatsApp message originated, I'm afraid is a marked man. He's the candle that has been lit at both ends. And this is an argument he cannot win because he is man, not God. And God or Allah has specifically ordered that those who abuse Allah and His Messenger, Allah has cursed them in this world and the hereafter and prepared for them a humiliating punishment, 33:57. You can't do anything about it. Today you will have 10,000 people assemble as a flash mob. Tomorrow you will have 20,000. Anyone who is perceived to have abused Allah or His Messenger will, sooner or later, meet the fate of Kamlesh Tiwari or Samuel Paty. It may take a week, a month, a year, a decade, but it will happen. This is the issue that we will never tackle. We will criticize AIMIM or someone who's provoked or assembled a mob of 10,000. We will snare the fundamentalists. But yet again, we will spare the fundamentals. The fundamentalists are acting on the fundamentals. As long as we don't address the fundamentals, we will never get anywhere, Rahul. But the point is, the moment you talk of fundamentals, three things come. One, context comes. Second, whataboutery comes. Third, applicability only to Muslims comes. Fourth, that leave it to us. This is our religion comes. No reform is possible. So what can you do? It's a dead end. It's an intractable Newtonian three-body problem. You can't do anything about it. You have to suffer it, Rahul. Very quickly, may I humbly disagree with Ms. Sanju Verma and agree with my good friend Sohail Bhai. He's right. There is nothing called radical Islam. If I believe in chapter and verse as a doctor in Gray's Anatomy, do I become a radical doctor? Or if I believe in biochemistry of Leninger, chapter and verse, do I become a radical scientist? The book is telling you everything. How come you're radical? No. Secondly, the leader, Rahul, this is nothing about, pressing Mr. Sohail into a corner. He is proud of the fact that Gustake Rasool ki ek hi saza sar tan se juda. Let me quote his leader, Asaduddin Owaisi, on Kamlesh Tiwari, and I quote him verbatim. वो जालिम, वो कुत्ता जो उत्तर प्रदेश में बैठकर अल्लाह की शान में गुस्ताखी किया, याद रख, तू आज जेल में है, मगर दुनिया तेरे लिए चूहे की बिल की तरह बन जाएगी इंशाल्लाह. तेरी गुस्ताखी ने तेरी अपनी बर्बादी को दावत दी है. And lo and behold, Kamlesh Tiwari was beheaded after a few months.
Mr.
So
Jindal,
they are proud of this.